You are standing in a cold, dark cave. It's 27,000 BC. You press your hand flat against the stone wall, take a mouthful of red ochre paint, and blow it across your fingers, leaving a perfect stencil of your hand behind, a shadow of yourself that will last longer than entire civilizations. But when you step back and look at the outline you just made, something is wrong. Your hand is missing fingers, not in the painting. In real life, you are looking at a stencil of a hand with 3 fingers gone, and it is your hand. This is one of the strangest, most unsettling puzzles in all of prehistory. Because across Ice Age cave art, all over the world, ancient humans left behind hundreds of these hand stencils, and a huge number of them are missing fingers. Whole segments, sometimes multiple fingers on the same hand, gone. And for over a century, archaeologists have been arguing about the same haunting question. Did ancient humans deliberately cut off their own fingers? And if they did, why on earth would they do that? Let's start with the evidence, because this is not one weird hand in one weird cave. In a cave called Gargas in the French Pyrenees, there are more than 200 hand stencils on the walls, painted around 27,000 years ago. And the majority of them, most of the hands, are incomplete. Fingers are shortened or missing entirely. You see it again in the Cascaire cave near Marseille, its entrance now underwater. You see it in Maltravi EHSO in Spain, hand after hand after hand, pressed to the cold rock in the flickering dark, and so many of them are not whole. This wasn't an accident someone made once. This was a pattern, repeated hundreds of times, across thousands of years and thousands of miles. So the question is unavoidable. What happened to the fingers? And this is where it splits into 2 chilling possibilities, because researchers genuinely cannot agree, and each answer is disturbing in its own way. The first possibility is the straightforward, horrifying one. They really did cut them off. Real amputation. The fingers were physically removed, and the stencils simply show the hands as they actually were. And before you dismiss that as too brutal to be real, we know for a fact that humans have done exactly this, deliberately, well into modern times. Here's the piece that changes how you hear this whole story. There is a people called the Dahni, living in the highlands of New Guinea, and until very recently they practiced ritual finger amputation. When a close relative died, women, and sometimes children, would have the upper segment of a finger cut off as an expression of grief. The pain of the body was meant to mirror and honor the pain of loss. They called it, in effect, a way of carrying the grief in the flesh. This is not ancient history. This is documented, photographed 20th century reality. Finger amputation as an act of mourning is a real thing human beings have actually done. So when we look at those Ice Age caves and see hundreds of hands missing fingers, the amputation theory isn't a wild fantasy. It fits a pattern we've seen in living memory. Ancient humans may have been removing finger segments for the same deep human reasons: to mourn the dead, to mark a sacrifice, to complete a ritual, to pay a price to whatever they believed was listening in the dark. Grief, faith, and sacrifice are among the oldest forces in our species, and the idea that they would be written into the body and then pressed onto a cave wall is powerful and awful and completely plausible. But now here's the second possibility, and it's the reason this puzzle has never been settled. Maybe the fingers weren't cut off at all. Maybe they were just bent. Think about how a stencil is made. You press your hand to the wall and blow paint around it. If you simply fold some of your fingers down against your palm before you do that, the finished stencil looks exactly like a hand with those fingers missing. There's no way from the outline alone to tell a truly amputated finger from a deliberately bent one, and that opens up a completely different, and in some ways even stranger, explanation. What if these weren't wounds, but signals? A number of researchers have proposed that the folded fingers were a form of communication, a code. Ancient hunters needed to communicate silently, at a distance, while stalking prey. You can't shout when you're creeping up on a mammoth. Many hunting cultures use hand signs for exactly this. A bent finger here, a folded hand there, each shape meaning a specific animal, a direction, a command. Under this theory, the missing fingers in the caves are actually a frozen sign language. Deliberate gestures, each one carrying meaning, preserved for 27,000 years. Those walls might not be paintings of injury at all. They might be sentences, a message from the deep past that we can see perfectly clearly and still cannot read. Now let me throw one more layer at you. Some of the oldest hand stencils in the Maltraviso cave in Spain have been dated so far back that they may predate modern humans in Europe entirely, meaning they might have been made by Neanderthals. Sit with that. The instinct to press your hand to a wall and leave your mark behind may be older than humanity itself. But now the uncomfortable part, because there's always one. If the fingers were really amputated, then we are looking at the marks of people, quite possibly including children, who had pieces of their bodies cut away with sharpened stone, in grief or fear or devotion, and who then recorded it forever. If instead the fingers were bent into signals, then we are staring at a language of gestures from a mind so distant from ours that we will almost certainly never crack it. A whole system of meaning, right in front of our eyes, permanently sealed. And the truth is, it may have been both. The most honest answer any serious researcher can give you is, we don't fully know. What we do know is this. These are among the most human things ever made. A hand stencil is a person saying, in the most direct way possible, I was here. This is my hand. Remember me. Every one of us has felt the urge behind it. A palm pressed into wet cement, a handprint in finger paint, a name carved into a desk. It is the oldest signature in the world, and it is instantly, achingly familiar. So, did ancient humans really cut off their own fingers? The answer is a genuine, unresolved maybe. Some of them may have, in mourning, in sacrifice, in rituals we can only guess at. Others may have simply folded their fingers into signals, leaving behind a silent language we can no longer understand. We can see their hands as clearly as if they pressed them to the wall yesterday. We just can't be sure what those hands were telling us. The next time you press your hand flat against something, a foggy window, wet sand, a friend's palm, think about the person standing in that freezing cave 27,000 years ago, doing the exact same thing, reaching out of the dark, leaving a mark, missing fingers and all, trying across an impossible distance of time to tell you something. And maybe the most human thing of all is that we're still standing here, staring at their hands, desperate to understand.